This is Husbandhood, a collaboration of husbands addressing the lessons of singleness, fatherhood, and marriage.
Since Christ is central to success in every area of life, we will offer biblical perspectives when navigating these topics. So without further ado,
What up, guys? We're back for another episode of Husbandhood. And we're probably gonna do something different this time. What do you think, Todd? Something different?
oh yeah. We were actually really excited about this particular episode. We're not even gonna, belabor the point. I'm really excited to bring in on one of my really good friends. Started to get to know him. I think we really started to interact and build a friendship. I want to say maybe around late 2018.
Okay.
Went to the same church and things like that, and just growing in life together, man. So I'm not going to say too much longer. I'm going to bring on my friend, David Walker.
Hey,
what's going on,
gentlemen.
man?
What's up?
What's
Yeah,
going
so
on,
David,
guys?
tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Who is David Walker?
Well, first and foremost, it's appropriate. I hope you guys excuse my casual attire, but we are celebrating Big Ten greatness over here. Grew up in the Midwest, 313. I'm a Detroit guy. I was born in Atlanta, but I was raised in Detroit. My grandparents, my granddad was in the automotive business, so that's what took us to Detroit. And so I was raised there, went to school there. Now I'm in Austin, Texas. I've been in Austin for probably about 12 years.
Oh, wow.
I've got a wife. We have 5 beautiful children. And, my clients fall out of their chair when I tell them that. No, I'm not Mormon. I'm a Christian, firm believer, but we just love kids. We love family. And I think one of the most successful things you can do is build a family.
Exactly.
And so we're building a strong family. And we've got 3 girls on top, and I've got my 2 boys on the bottom. Our latest edition was just born November 7th.
Oh, wow. Okay. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. So we're fresh in it. I'm probably running off straight adrenaline tonight, fellas. But we're just very thankful and very blessed. During the day, I'm a financial advisor. And I work for one of the largest investment advisory firms in the nation, and enjoy just helping clients secure their future through planning and financial planning and financial literacy, and wealth building, wealth strategies. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. Well, thank you for being on. Yes, thank you.
So if you guys haven't, picked up on it, you will as we delve in throughout this episode. But David Walker is a man who has wisdom. He has knowledge. Look at that. And like you said, I love
any
it.
moment, fellas, it was bound to happen.
I understand that.
We're rolling with it.
My little one might wake up from his nap and be like banging on the door, talking about what's going on. So
we're real fathers, man. We're present.
Yes, exactly.
They can't say we're not here on the job doing the work, man.
Yes.
And we talked about this a little earlier, but one of the purposes of what we're doing here is we just want to really have a place to where we are just sharing and trying to pour into men from a positive, edifying perspective, because there's a lot out there that's telling men all kinds of nonsense, craziness, things that are just antithetical to what God has told us who we ought to be. So it is great to see just that fatherhood in action. Is like, hey, roll up, hop on the lap, and we're gonna keep going. But before we dive into the topic, we try to do a little fun stuff here. So I kind of posed this to Daryl just to get his initial thing, but I was like, what, we're just gonna jump into it. So we do this thing. What it is. When you're at the barbershop, the old school style, right? You sit down, you're getting your haircut, but you're also gonna get some wisdom. You're gonna get some, maybe they'll rag on you a little bit. So we call this little section right now shop talk. So the shop talk topic that we have this week is, how do you feel about gender reveal parties? So, hey, full disclosure, we had one. It was in the middle of COVID,
Mhm.
so we did one digitally. And I thought, hey, I thought that was fine. But come to
Mhm.
find out, I'm hearing people who think gender reveal parties are a waste of time, something people shouldn't be doing. So, how do you guys feel about gender reveal parties?
Uh, I I honestly don't have an opinion at all. I mean, we did not have a gender reveal party. Sorry, I mean, we obviously found out the gender, and then we were just kind of like, oh, we're having girls, and they're like, oh, okay. But my friend, he had a gender reveal, and I think the only thing that makes gender reveal parties stressful is that you're trying so hard to either keep the secret with the doctor and maybe someone else, and all of a sudden, the she's and the him start slipping out, and they're like, "Oh, well, now I know it's a girl." And to me, it seems like it will like provide this damper on the rest of the party. Well, I already knew it was a girl. You're like, well, I mean, you can go old school and just not find out what it is at all, and then it'd be a really
Exactly.
big reveal for everybody. So, yeah, I don't really know. That's a good question. I mean, I don't think I sway either way. So, I'm curious to what David, uh, thinks on the manner or whatnot.
I think gender reveal parties have gotten crazy. First of all, I see people with like fireworks. I see people with like, drones in the sky. I'm like, we had a gender reveal party, probably for, I think we didn't do it for every kid. I think we did it for
Hmm.
maybe two out of our five. They're fun. I have no problem with it, but it's getting out of hand. Like some of the stuff I see online, I'm like, y'all got too much time on your hands and you're burning through too much money. Like you need to just keep it simple. So
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
I
yeah.
feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I just thought that was a funny thing to talk about because we're more like easygoing. We tend to
Hmm.
not like get too hot or too cold on things. I feel like so maybe if I ask somebody else, they might have more of like a visceral response to it. Because
Yeah.
man, some of the comments I was hearing, I was like, man, you guys really hate gender reveal party. I was like, it blew me away. It blew me away. I didn't know that.
What
That.
what's the craziest one y'all seen? I mean, I mean, or actually, no, I won't even say that. What's the coolest one you've ever seen? Because I mean, just kind of put a better aspect on it. If you were to have a gender reveal, and you're like, you know what, that one was actually pretty cool. Which one would you prefer?
I mean,
I'll
I
tell
don't
you
know.
this.
Go ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I saw one because I mean I've never really shot a rifle or whatever. But they did like a skeet shooting one,
Mhm.
and the groomsmen had, are they not groomsmen? Wow, the father had to shoot it, and obviously when it popped, they let him know the gender, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because there's two things he had to do. First of all, he had to make sure he hit it because I mean you
Mhm.
start shooting them things off, and he's trying to aim, and it never happens. But just the fact that it was like they shot two of them up there, and he was like boo boo, and it popped up girls. I was like, oh, I was like,
That's
that's really
awesome.
cool. And I was like, that's a little strategy and skill, and then you get a gender reveal. I didn't purposely make that rhyme, but
Hey, good job. No, I would say for me, I don't know about if this like coolest, but at least because I feel like the ones that have like a tie to like something that is important to either the mom or the dad, it's kind of cool. So I had a friend who he's really big into baseball. So they threw the ball, he hit it, and it popped blue. And so that was really
uh,
cool. I thought that was really cool because it kind of tied into something he loved and
yeah,
still had that surprise factor. So I would say
yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Okay, okay.
I'll say probably not the coolest, but the craziest one I saw. It's comical. I saw a Caucasian couple getting ready to do a gender reveal, and I don't know if they had some type of like firework or whatever, but they lit it, and the gender reveal like came out black, and so it was like insinuating that the baby's gender was like in question. I mean not
Oh
gender, but the
god,
baby's race was
yeah.
in question. So I thought that was
Oh,
pretty hilarious. And the
Oh
wife was
it
god,
looking at
turned
her
into a
like,
race reveal,
"Whoa,
huh?
yeah.
exactly
Everybody's
right."
looking. He's trying to look.
So I thought that was
Oh,
pretty funny. I kind of got a good
Oh
laugh out
man,
of that.
that's pretty
Yeah.
funny. That's hilarious.
oh.
All right. Well, now that we've got
Yeah.
a nice little laugh out of that, I'm glad that everybody found that amusing. So, Daryl, what are we talking about this episode, man?
Well, I mean, we all are husbands, fathers, and we've all been friends to others before. And one of the things that I think is not really talked about in the community, whether you're single, whether you are married, or even just in a relationship, and that's outside influences. And to narrow it down even further, when we wanted to talk about boundaries. I feel like nowadays it's almost unspoken about what the boundaries are going to be in whatever stage of life you are in, you know. And I think this day and age, as men, we really need to establish them, you know, and then even stand firm on a lot of them because, you know, one of the things, you know, and kind of talking to more of an aspect of single, I remember, and this is there's a new word now, and it was like body counts, you know, that was like the
Mm.
thing back in the day, you know, and I thought it was interesting because I was, you know, I was pretty, I mean, I wouldn't even say I was young. I'm in high school. I'm hearing about this. I'm confused. I'm like, what are they talking about? You know, because that was something I never even thought of because, you know, I was always in the understanding of, you know, you get married and that's when everything starts to take off, you know? And so just hearing this and I'm thinking like, oh man, Daryl, you haven't done anything. What? Come on, man. And I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing to do, you know. But you know, and actually that aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, you know, drugs and stuff like that. Like I would hang around some guys and they were like, hey man, we're about to go do this. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be around that, you know, but there's just so many different influences out there, you know, and if we don't set up certain boundaries, you know, and I don't know what sometimes those look like for other people. I know we all grew up in different areas, maybe even different surroundings, but I just really want to talk about different outside influences and what boundaries we need to set up, whether it be we're single, whether it be married, whether it be just in a relationship, just to kind of help others out there that are going through things. They're thinking like, hey, you know, I know there's got to be a better life out there. Why am I struggling in the areas that I'm struggling in? So that's what I feel like the topic should be on today. Hopefully it's not too challenging for us. So let's
Well, so what
see.
are some of the question I have here is, in what are some of these outside influences, just to be, you know, candid? What are the things? Because I feel like
Yeah.
no matter what area of your life you're in, or time in your life you're in, whether you're single, you're married,
Hmm.
you have kids, the influences may not change, but
Hmm.
how you interact with them uh, would. So, what are some of the common, outside influences you guys can think about? Maybe, I'll toss it over to David. What are some of those things you could identify that are like, whether they're good, bad, whatever, but some of the common
Hmm.
influences that come from externally?
Yeah. I think media has the biggest influence on people than it's had in all of our lifetime. I think
Hmm.
people are just so consumed with media. Media has such a consistent voice, whether you're on social media or you're turning on the television or you're, watching film. It is something that we ingest on a continuous basis. And
Hmm.
so you have to really, I know for me, man, you have to really um, decipher what voices you're going to allow to influence you. So you got to have boundaries of voices, because there's the culture, especially the black man. The culture says you need to be like this, and then in corporate America, which that's my domain. They said you need to be
Hmm.
like this, and then you got expectations, from friends or from family. So all these voices in your mind, all these voices in your ears. So for me, that's the biggest influence, and
Hmm.
the way you have to create boundaries for media or for social media and for culture. And it really reminds me of the scripture where, Adam and Eve were in the garden and the serpent was talking to Eve and to Adam, and God was asking them when they had gotten caught, like, who told you that? So if
Hmm.
you're not careful, you can get yourself caught up because you're listening to other voices or you're listening to um, other people's expectations of where you should be with your life. Or you know how we have like, I gotta be, this much money by this age, this many
Hmm.
kids, this kind of house, this kind of ride. It's like, who told you that? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, who
Hmm.
told you that? If you're not, doing this with your money or you're not doing that, I'm in finance. And so you got all these mixed, voices on. hey, you need to be, no debt, or you need to buy a home with debt, or you need to, pay off your mortgage as soon as you get it, or, if you're going to, rental property, you need to, no money down, or, only, certain kind of loans. There's all these conflicting voices because, media has just flooded our lives every
Mhm.
single day. So, I mean, getting back to your question, you got to create those boundaries on who are you listening to and who you're going
Mhm.
to allow to have influence in your ears. It's so critically important, because I mean, if you ingest an idea or a thought of somebody else, it could really ruin your day. If you spend too much
Mhm.
time harboring that thought, maybe you're remorseful about where you are, or maybe you feel like you
Yeah.
made a bad decision, or it could put you in shame, or it could put you in pride, oh, I'm better than
Mhm.
such and such. It's just such a trick bag, man.
Yeah.
So you got to create those boundaries as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, like with media, what you ingest and who you're listening to and who has your attention, you know?
Mhm.
That was a lot. So I didn't mean to
Yeah.
keep
No,
on
no,
that.
I mean, that was
I
good.
got to
That
get
was
it in
good.
before Lauren comes back down. You know what I'm saying? So I got to hurry
No,
up.
no, you're good. It's funny when I love what you said, because when I thought about just who you are listening to, I think about a lot of times when I watch certain things on social media, and lately I have been watching a lot of these kind of what women expect men to be before they will allow them to talk to them, and just to hear, I mean, their response is he's got to make over 100 something K a year. And I'm thinking in my head, like, man, I started off as a cook, man. I was sitting at 20 grand. And I mean, I feel like I'm a really nice person. So to tell me that, hey, you know what, I got to start off at 100 grand a year. Well, you're not getting that as cooks until way later on, throughout life and stuff like that. And so just their expectations. And if I'm judging myself as a single man, that's what women are looking for, then I could be setting myself up into a dangerous avenue of just thinking that this is what actually everyone wants, and this is not what everyone wants. And I agree with you. I mean, even for my daughters, I just got one that just turned 18, and if she thinks that's what men are supposed to, have or be capable of doing and stuff like that, not that she should be setting her standards low or anything, but more of a realistic and actually firm foundation, on what a man can provide and what he's rooted in.
Right,
So
right.
Yeah, and I want to tie in two things here because I feel like we're at such an interesting time in history these days because when I was coming up, one of the things that and it was a struggle for me because I wanted to be married. I had pressure coming from my family being like pretty much every time I talk to them, they're like, so you met a nice young lady or whatever, and at first it was like he ha ha, and then after a while as I was hitting like 30 mid 30s, I'm like, okay, it's not fun anymore. Now it's like it's a stressor.
mm,
I'm dreading that conversation because it's not happening. So that was definitely and depending on the type of family you are, right?
mhm,
The family influence can be something that's really good, or some people might come from family backgrounds where it's like it's just never good. But the thing
mhm,
that's really crazy, just to tie into what David was saying earlier, is one of the things that I see happening from the social media and culture perspective is now getting married is seen as like a negative. And as a single
mm,
person, like he was saying, you're getting conflicting messages because now it's like, on the one hand, you might even have like there might be something within you that's saying like I want to get married. It's a desire that I have. Even as a man, there's a stereotype men don't commit, blah blah blah. I don't at all hold to that. I think plenty of men are very much wanting to commit, but now you
mhm,
have these external voices that are saying, why would you even like marriage is such a sham. It's something
mhm.
that's no longer relevant for today. Or if you're going to get married, hey, as soon as it turns into something that you don't agree with, time to roll out, and
Yeah.
that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Todd, on what you said. Uh, yeah, it's just it's to the thing that bothers me in all this is that I'm super conflicted of why as men, because we hear a lot of women speak on what men should be, or we hear a lot of women speak on what they could be without a man. And it's so
Mhm.
weird because it's like, you know, all of us, we all started single, I know most of, I mean, none of us probably had arranged marriages right out of 18, started off single, really took not necessarily pride, but had a direction or a vision of what we want to do with our lives, like me and Todd was speaking earlier, and I'm pretty sure David, you were right there, desire to be married, to take care of our wives and kids, like our wife and kids. And so it's like, who are these women getting their ideals of what a man should be in their lives, as well as like what do they get, like where are they seeing the expectation of a relationship with a man? It's, oh, let you do what you do, I do what I do, but there's no common ground where we're going to do something together. And that's the part that worries me and bothers me, because I feel as men we should speak to that. Like, our desire isn't to control a woman. Our desire isn't to take control of a situation and be like, you know what, now you're my quote unquote, I've heard, another I guess you'll call it short, where a woman was like, I'm not going to be his slave. I'm like, slave? Like, who desires that? Like, who would desire to have a wife to be a slave? Like, and I get it, I mean, you probably see what the actually I'll say it like this. We've seen movies, right, where a lot of the men are either deadbeats or they don't take care of their families, but all they want their wives to do is just cook, clean, and wash their laundry, But I mean, that's Hollywood. That's not realistic. That's not life. And I think that's where a lot of us get so confused on what a man's role is in this relationship. And then now they're saying, well, this is what I want the man to be in my relationship. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So I'm curious, though, what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that the issue is that you've got, and I got to be careful how I word this, but you have so many mixed roles,
Yeah.
and I'll talk about my marriage. So I think we have a real clear understanding of what our roles and expectations are. That really helps us, really play our best, really, do our best to support the family. I think personally, if you've got somebody, trying to tell, especially me being a man, trying to tell my wife how to be a wife or how to be a woman, I can tell her what will help me. Okay, I can do that all day, but trying to really put my, opinion about what it means to be a woman, and I have not spent no time in a woman's shoes. I ain't carried out one baby, I think you have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Vice versa. Women trying to, really typecast men and try to, say what a man should be and what it really means to be a man. I think you have to be careful with that. And so I think the best thing that you can do is, as a man, understand my role, understand what I can bring to the table, how I can help bring value. As a woman, what is your role? How can you bring value? And together we can rule and reign,
Yeah.
but trying to, really dictate, I think it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And the culture is so good at that. And that's why a lot of single people not finding matches, because the culture is telling you, you need to go in and you need to tell your man this is what he need to be, or you need to go in there and tell your woman this is what she needs to be. If she ain't, it's like, come on, man. That ain't gonna work for nobody. You asking for a blow up. You asking for a disaster.
And to build on that, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I would say I think the key to marriage is compromise. Everybody wants to be so freaking strong and stand on business, like be dogmatic. But I think the key to a happy marriage is compromise. Nobody is right all the time. Nobody always has the best ideas. You have to be able to, understand my partner. If my partner is doing something, it's something that we practice in our marriage. If my partner is saying something, my partner is doing something, I know they have my best interest at heart. I'm not going to take it personal, cut down my ideas, or she's, doing something, different than the way I want it to be done. I have to give her the benefit of the doubt and understand, hey, at the end of the day, she's got my best interest at heart, But we've got such another problem with the culture. I'm telling you, is pride. Like people are
Oh my
so
gosh.
prideful in themselves,
Yes.
and you can't have nothing with pride. Pride will cause you
Mhm.
to surrender everything that you have, man.
Yeah.
Your position, your wealth, your influence. If you get too pride, it will cause you to lose it. And so
Mhm.
I'm just real upset about the culture, really indoctrinating these people to be strong in pride. This is what you want.
Mhm.
Don't deviate, non-negotiables. And it's like, that ain't what marriage is. You want to be married? Bruh, that
Yeah.
ain't what marriage is, man.
Yeah.
You got to be
Well,
Yeah.
able. You got to be able to compromise. That's every single day.
Yeah.
That's how the
yeah.
greatest marriages survive, man.
Mhm.
And I wanted to build on that because I also think you, you're talking about how you have people who haven't really, like, they don't have any framework to even understand or have experienced that, so men trying to tell women how to do stuff and vice versa.
Exactly.
But even from
Exactly.
like the same, gender perspective, it's like, what men are you listening to? What women are you listening
Mhm.
to? If you are having people
Right.
who are
Yeah.
pouring into you from that perspective,
Right.
because,
Mhm.
Right.
like, there's certain men out there who have very prominent voices who I'm like, these people should not be
That
who
is true.
you are listening to.
Yeah.
Bro.
And we as believers, like, our standard is what God says. And so if a
Mhm.
man is saying
Absolutely.
something that
100%.
doesn't line up with what
100%.
God says, then why are we even allowing them to speak into our lives, or
Mhm.
letting them to have influence in other men's lives?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
I
100%.
do think, I know I'm not perfect, so sometimes I kind of sit back. But if I hear a Christian referencing someone who isn't a Christian, my first thing is like, be careful with that. And then vice versa, like when
Yeah.
women are like, and let's be honest, not everybody who calls themselves a
100%.
Christian and spouting stuff out
Mhm.
is really speaking like the truth. They might
Yeah.
be like, they might sound real good, they might have a great,
Of course you do.
presentation, but are they really speaking truth? And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things that I kind of really, hammers home to me. But I kind of want to shift gears on you guys, because like, as a single person, right, one of the
Mhm.
external influences is, if you're a man, it's women. If you're a woman, it's men. But once you become married, your wife is now, you are one with your wife. So
Mhm.
they're no longer considered an external, right? Like, you guys are,
Mhm.
Right.
you're unified. Yeah, you still have your own perspective and stuff like that. So how do you manage that, even though, like, physically you guys are external to each other, but really and truly, like, you guys are unified once you're married? So how do you navigate that? Because you can't
Mhm.
really set a boundary between you and your wife.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll
That's
say,
interesting. Go ahead, David.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just think you have to respect the individuality of the person, even in a marriage. And I think
Mhm.
that, you know, um, you have to realize that we've been married for some time now. We've been married, I think we've been together more or less like 12 years,
Oh, okay.
and then married for about 7 of those years. Um, but I think that you have to understand that at the end of the day, that person is still an individual. And even
Mhm.
though you are joined together as one, men and women are so different. The way we see
Yes.
things, the way we see situations, the way we hear things. I could say A, B, C, D. Maybe she hears E, D, F, G. And it's just the way she's wired. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be, and so you just have to realize that. And you have to, work together, even in the midst of some of the, different perspectives and how you're raised and how you see the world and your backgrounds. You still have to find a way to, at the end of the day, respect that person as an
Mhm.
individual. But that's my individual. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's,
Mhm.
they're separate, but we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And appreciating that kind of diversity of thought, that diversity of experience, understanding that they're only going to make you stronger. Whatever
Mhm.
viewpoint they have, it may be different from yours, but at the end of the day, we all know diversity of thought. You thrive from that, because you've
Mhm.
got the best ideas on the table. So I think you just have to understand we're together. Nothing's going to
Mhm.
separate us.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Nothing's going to
No doubt.
separate us.
I like what you said, David, because it's one of the things me and Todd talked about earlier. And I think it has to deal with, the misconception that society has about once you get married, yes, there's a boundary when it comes to you, you and your wife becoming one, but that boundary starts with that first small circle of just you and your wife. And I think with the outside influences, a lot of times we get married, but yet we have friends, or we have uh aunts, uncles, or cousins that have been with us since 15 years. Oh, you know what? I've known them forever, and you just now knowing your wife, and how can she speak to your life, better than I can? And it's like, well, you know what? When you get married, that whole leave and cleave, like people, I don't think people really understand that. Like, I think they hear it and like, yeah, we're one, but it's like, no, like that friend you had for 15 years, where y'all did everything crazy from high school to college. Well, once you got married, that's non-existent anymore. Now well, let me rephrase that, not non-existent, but what it is your wife now becomes that focal point, that wife, that what she says, like you said earlier, I like what you said earlier, was like, she's got your best interest in heart, like it doesn't matter, because you guys are growing up together in what your relationship is about. And that's what I think of people really. I feel like a lot of marriages struggle. I talked to an individual the other day, and it was kind of like his exact words were, I'm kind of tired of being married because she just doesn't get me. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, my friend that I've been with for 15 years, he just understands me. And he just, I don't really have to speak anything. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not marriage, man. Like, yeah, she's not going to get you. You guys are different. We speak different languages. She's seeing sides of you that's going to sharpen you. Your friend sees sides of you that he's like, I like that side of you, and I want you to continue to be that side, but he ain't looking at the blind spots. And so that's just it just cracks me up, because that leave and cleave and really leaning on your wife is something that I don't think people understand anymore. So
I don't understand that. And sometimes I just want to add to that. People don't understand the spiritual warfare surrounding marriage. The enemy
yes.
does not like unity. And so
Yes.
I bet you the enemy is not attacking the relationship with his friend like he's attacking the relationship with his wife, because
like
there's
that.
something special about marriage that God has ordained. It's a
Mhm.
different type of warfare, and you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And so I think once you got to keep that in the back of your mind. People forget, man. You go through some rough seasons, you're like, man, why is it so rough? I don't understand it. We've been together this long, we still had these problems. Because the
Yeah.
enemy is at war. You have to be reminded of that. And that encourages you to lean in and persevere and overcome, but a lot of people miss that, and they forget
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I like that. Todd, what do you think?
Oh man, I'm right there with you. And I mean, that's a big reason why I asked the question, is because, and that's something that, at this point I'm approaching 4 years of marriage. So, I'm still new to this whole game, but even in the early stages, yeah, just having that, being mindful of the fact that your marriage is an important thing in like what God is trying to do in your life and in your wife's life, and that it is going to be something that you are going to have to work at, fight through. There's going to be a lot of different, it's so crazy that, I talked about this a little earlier, right? Like I was struggling to connect with someone on the romantic level. Once I, met up with, my now wife, all of a sudden relationships with other women seem to be a little bit easier, seem to be, like
Come out of
you
nowhere. They know
you
you're good.
yeah. And it was very, very strange, right? And had some very hard conversations, and instead of me being, going back to the word that David used, instead of having that pride, and there was a little bit, but I was able to really kind of like hear the wisdom in what she was saying and be humble enough to go, hey, if this relationship matters, you need to hear her out and actually like take action on that. Things like, getting little private messages on Instagram and being like, oh, it's, no big deal. Like we're just friends, stuff like that. And she being looking at you like, well, you can just be friends all, with her and I can, go and then they're like, oh, okay, it's for real. Understanding that those little innocent, and that, so that's kind of where I want to take it to, is once, you do have that marriage, all these other relationships on the side, they really do have to come secondary, tertiary, beyond that. I think as a man, it is very important to have strong, friendships with men and have those bonds. But at the end of the day, they come still secondary to your wife, right?
So Todd, just to cut you off real quick, let me make sure I hear you clearly. You already know where I'm going with this, right? So you telling me, let's say, I graduated high school, or, I've been having this girl that's just been a big sister or little sister to me. Like I've known her all my life. I get married, right? So you telling me that relationship has to end? Like I can no longer like now that has to be a distant relationship? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not telling anyone what has to be. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you that it is not wise to have anyone who has a special place in your life that even comes close to what you have with your wife. So whether that's male, but especially if it's female, because I do question anyone who's like, oh, like if, depending on the gender, it's like, oh yeah, I don't have any issues if they like, go out to dinner with, X person. I'm like, oh, you don't, huh? Because that maybe you can trust your wife 100, 1000%, but can you trust that other individual? Because they might just be waiting in the wings for that one moment where, maybe you slip up and you say the wrong thing and she comes to that person and she's in a vulnerable position, So I just don't think it is wise. And so again, I'm not telling you what you have because I'm not in control of anybody's life.
Yeah.
I just think that if one, you need to question why is it so hard of a fight for you if you can't let that go for the sake of your marital relationship. Like you need to ask that question. Why is that so important that you can't pull back on that? Because at the end of the day, to me, the thing that you should be fighting for first and foremost is your relationship with God, your relationship with your wife or husband, depending, and then your relationship with your kids. And then everything else needs to kind of fall under that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had to throw that curve. Go ahead. Do you have anything to add, David?
Yeah, oh, most definitely, man. I think what we've done in our experience that those friendships that are, close female friends that I've had throughout the years, they're now our friendships. So it's like you're in the circle, and if they can't get with the circle, then we can't be friends.
Yeah.
But you just gotta extend that. It can't be just a so one way. It's got to be okay. This is our friend now, and if it don't fit, then you got to quit.
Yeah.
But something you said about marriage, and I just want to throw this out there where people are so quick. You're talking about a friend of yours that was having trouble with their marriage, and was saying that their friend doesn't get them. I think for me, and it's something I kind of thought about when I first got married. And I think the first couple years is the hardest years of your marriage. There's going to be so much, especially if you don't live together, because you're trying to really understand each other. You're trying to, understand what each other likes and just how you live, how one or how two become one. That's a real tough thing to do. But something I did early on was that I had a dream. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a big visionary. That's part of one of my strengths. If you're familiar with Strength Finders, is visionary is my top one strength. And so I've got a vision for like where I want my career to be. I've got a vision for like, where I want to live. I've got, all these goals for different things in my life. And the Lord started helping me understand you need to have a vision or a goal for your marriage. That's the only way it's going to grow. That's the only way it's going to be that oasis that you want it to be, is that you have a vision for it and that you are working towards that. And so, like yourself with your weight, your physical body, you're not where you want to be unless you put in the work. You're not gonna, get to the level you want to be financially unless you utilize some strategies or you're, doing some things to improve your situation. I think marriage is the same way. And I've got a great dream for my marriage to be great, for us to really enjoy each other, for us to stay in this place where we're the best of friends. But I've got to make sure that I'm doing the work to get to that place. And when it gets hard, that's not the time to, run away. That's the time to lean in. That's the time to persevere, But that's something that has really encouraged me, because it's not, when it gets right. It's not if it gets rocky, it's when it gets rocky. What are you going to do? Are you going to lean into that goal, lean into that vision that you have for your marriage?
Yeah. Couldn't agree any more with you, David. One thing I wanted to ask Todd, because we talked about friends, we talked about kind of a single life. Family, though, like I know family is probably one of the hardest boundaries to set especially when it comes to, we cracked that joke of, what is it? Why did I get married? Where the individual had the mom that was like,
Oh
I know
yeah.
what's good for my son, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think any of us probably gone through that. I mean, I may have gone through that through my first marriage, but my mom wasn't as intense as that. But it was just kind of like, you know, I feel like family can really come in into actually any aspect of our life, whether it be single, whether it be married, maybe even being parents, our families can come in and even try to disrupt, or it's like, well, I raised you like this, and
Mhm.
it was okay with me, and or I did this and it was okay for me. And so how do we establish the boundaries when it comes to family, whether it be parents, cousins, aunts and uncles? Where do we establish that to where we can stand firm in what we believe, but not necessarily cut down the information that they're trying to give us in a sense of any kind of help or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's so crazy that you asked that question because that's something that is actually right now something that Amy and I are just discussing, going through. Because
Mm,
while, I would say for my immediate family, we feel pretty confident that, that influence is going to be mostly positive. Obviously, you
mm,
can't know anything. But then beyond that, there are things that we're seeing, and it kind of ties into social media as well.
mhm,
There are things we're seeing on social media, and there's a little bit of trepidation to be like, do we want, because I want my son, and I want to continue to nurture that familial connection. But it's like, do I
mhm,
want my son to get that influence from his other family that
mhm.
doesn't align with our values, what we're
Got
trying
you.
to set, you know what I'm saying? And so I
Mhm,
think what the first step that we're going for is, and it kind of again ties into what David was saying, like, if you have a clear understanding of what you expect, and you teach and you discipline, and everything is
mhm,
kind of built upon that. So that's the first step for us, is we want to set a foundation for our son, to where, like, these are our values, this is what we expect. So
mhm.
even if he does find himself in that situation where he's hearing things, he's seeing things, he knows already that, hey, that's not part of my family's values. So
Mhm,
even if it's cousin, aunt, uncle, whoever, he
mhm,
still understands that. But I think also too, and this is the tougher piece for me, because I'm more of a kind of, I'm more was agreeable in my personality type, is
mhm,
being willing to stand up to those family members,
mm. Yeah.
and letting it be known, like, hey, this is my expectation, this is what I am okay with and what I'm not okay with. I'm not
Mhm,
okay with you speaking certain words around my son. I'm not okay with,
mhm,
you doing certain things around my son. And not because I think somehow I'm any better. Hello, we grew up together. You know plenty of stuff that most people who know me well now don't know. But what
mhm.
it is that we aren't meant to stay in those same places, right? My past is
Yeah.
my past. And if I haven't grown because of my past, then I'm not learning the lessons that I need to learn. So
Mhm,
yes, there may be things in my past, and there may be things that you've seen me go through, but now I'm trying to do better for myself, and certainly for the next generation, my son and his children, and so forth. So that's one of the things for me, is like setting that proper foundation. So
mhm.
he kind of already starts to build that understanding of, this is the expectation that my parents have set for me,
Yeah.
and also communicating with your family. And it doesn't have to be an ultimatum or anything, like, hey, if you don't act right, I won't be around. I just won't be around.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be all that much. It just,
Yeah.
I have no qualms with being over here if we can't align. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say with that piece.
Yeah. No, I'm probably, and actually, since you guys on here, we got two different views. I think, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I am kind of the guy where it's like I will reveal and speak what I want to when it comes to my family. And so a lot of times they like to kind of just guess what things are, almost like shooting in the dark and seeing what hits, and I think with me, I have to develop this boundary where it's like, you can shoot in the dark all you want. I'm only going to disclose what I want to disclose, but what I stand on, what my vision and where I'm planning on leading my family is where I'm going to lead them. Now, if you ask me, I can tell you. I have no problem telling you if it's something I feel like you need to know. But I feel like a lot of times we feel, especially in our immediate family, those are our husband, as husband and wives, and then even our kids, sometimes we feel like we have to disclose everything because it's our family, And one of the things I learned when I was married the first time was you don't tell your parents everything that's going on in your marriage. First boundary that I learned, and so getting married this time, I know for a fact that me and my wife's issues are me and my wife's issues. Now, if I want to bring in a pastor or a counselor, that I feel like that we both agreed on to talk about our issues, that's fine. But when you start, adding family, the one thing that I've learned is that they take offense, right? But you could get over it and be like, oh, you know what? I got over it. Well, they didn't get over it. They held on to it. And now they're going to hold on to it the rest of their life. And then anytime you go, oh man, things are going good, they're going to be like, oh, remember that one time she did this? Remember that one time she did that? And now you're struggling because now you're combating that. And she's like, well, why is your mom still mad at that? Like, I thought you forgave me. And it just goes down this cycle of just like, I mean, if you don't set that boundary up, it just gets worse and worse and worse over the years to where you find yourself arguing about stuff that's 10, 15 years old. So I see David clicked in. I'm going to see what he got to say.
I just said I couldn't agree more. I think you have to establish those boundaries. I think you gave the perfect example because in marriage, you have to forgive quickly. Well, certain people, they're not married to your spouse. So they're not going to forgive as quickly. They're going to remember and they're going to try to hold that against them. And that's just a recipe for disaster,
Yeah.
And so I think you got to set that boundary, what you can share, what you can't share. And let's say going back to that leaving clean, like the team has got to be solid,
Yeah.
The blessing is on unity. When you guys are in unified and, in harmony together, that's where God can command his blessings. So I couldn't agree 100%,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw a little bit of I don't want us to go down this track, but it just popped in my head, so I'm gonna share it, because I think one of the important things about marriage, we talked about it's God ordained and stuff like that, but I also think that a big reason why it's beautiful is because it's a reflection of Christ and the church, that marriage, and so whenever people talk about, well, I love Christ, but the church, that'd be like saying to me, like, Todd, you cool, but your wife, I just can't get down with her. Then we can't be cool, right? Then we can't be cool. And that's why I think it's so funny when people are like, I just love Jesus, but I really can't go to church, or they get hurt in a church setting and they're just done with church. It's like, how are you going to be done with the very establishment that Christ says is he's coming back for,
Yeah.
And so I think as a lot of times that, again, I don't want us to fully go down that road, but it just popped in my head where it's like, hey, even with family, if they're holding grudges against your wife, that's going to be a problem, right? Like, I'm going to need you to find it in your heart to forgive this person or get over it, because this is someone who I have made a covenant before God that we're going to be together for life, right? And so, but again, I think you can protect your wife, obviously, or for women, your husband, by being very, very considerate about what you speak of your marriage outside of the walls of your marriage, and I think that's important for sure.
Yeah. And it goes for friends too. I'm just adding it on there because I forgot, you can tell good friends that you've been friends with for 15 years and tell them the same thing. And, they're always going to be team you, and then all of a sudden, it's just,
they come around and you feel some shade. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. They're like,
looking at me all crazy now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what y'all talking about? You got to pick up on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, what's up?
Exactly.
So
one of the things I want. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Well, I'll jump in. You hold your thought.
One last thing I wanted to talk about, and then after that we can kind of go a little bit because I want to respect, David, your time as well.
For sure.
One of the things that I had to learn, and I know we all are working men, and so one of the things that was very difficult me in my first marriage, guys, that I understood in my current marriage now is that setting a boundary for work. And that it sounds super easy to say, I'm just going to work 8 hours, or I picked up a second job, or hey, I'm working later. And so I really want to talk to us about what that what that looks like in the sense of setting up those boundaries, because we as family, as we have families, as we're husbands and we are fathers, we have family, which should be our top priority in our relationship, our first ministry. And sometimes we may allow work to come in between that and take over. And so as men, what should we do, or what are some things that we should think about when it comes to setting boundaries for work, and maybe even establishing boundaries during work, whether it be a promotion or transition or a project that comes up? What is it that we can do, or what foundations can we lay to set those up as we journey into the either corporate or just working in general?
I think that's a good question. I think you have to be careful. This is going back to the one thing, and this is something that we practice in our house. Work is something that I am doing, and my wife works as well. But it's something that we're doing for the family. So anything going on with work, like, we're reporting out. So every day I'm coming home, I'm reporting out what's going on. I'm reporting out what clients I've met with. I'm reporting out anything that's going on in the office, because I want her to understand, listen, this is the part, you are part of this too. Like, this is a career choice that I've made, but as my spouse, we are in it together. And I think if you can approach it with that kind of perspective, where your spouse doesn't feel like when you go to work, that's another life that they know nothing about, don't understand, don't know the intricacies of it. I think if you could kind of bring them in and kind of get them to understand what you're doing and why it's important and where you're trying to go with it, and you guys are on the road together, I think you can kind of get more of a buy-in, versus if you put in all these long hours, because I work long hours, I'm committed. I serve my clients, so that means I've got to be available. But my wife is very understanding, because I bring her in and I make sure that she is included in everything that I'm doing, or at least has knowledge about it. That way it's not like, oh, he's going over there, I don't know what he's doing, I don't know who he with, She doesn't have that negative posture towards it. It's like, this is what I'm doing. Again, it's for the family. It's to put us where we need to be, and ABCD. So that has worked well for me, and has allowed me to kind of be ambitious in my career.
I like that. Actually, I've never heard that before in my life. David's bringing us some wisdom here. I've never heard that.
I'm trying to do my value add, fellas. Trying to do my. I want to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, and Daryl, I'm right there too. I was like, man, that's so good. And because I was gonna say, but I want to acknowledge that that's so good. And it's funny too, because I found myself doing that, and it sets an expectation, right? Because if she knows, like, oh, okay, Todd's been talking about, hey, he's got this project that's really, time intensive, really requiring like a lot of work. When I say, hey, I got to put in some extra hours on a given day, or maybe I got to work on Sunday, she's like, oh, okay, like, no big deal. But also too, I think also having that proper understanding of what is work for, right? You aren't for work, work is for you. And so it is meant to facilitate the things that are important in your life, right? And just like David was saying, there are people that he provides a service to, like, they're important. Like, the people that we serve through our jobs, they're important. So I think having the perspective of like, okay, we are doing a service for these our clients, whoever we're working for, whatever. But also too, it's a service for our families, right? It's to to provide a means for us to provide, financial stability. But also too, I think especially for men who are, because some people may have different dynamic. Maybe you're a stay-at-home dad, that hey, different dynamics. But I think even once you get home, you can't then just check out, right? Because we only, especially for those of us who work, we only have so much of the day to spend with our children and with our wife. And I think even if you're just tired, and maybe you do need just one day to say, hey, I am just like wasted, but that can't be a consistent thing. Like, when you get home, you have to be present. You cannot blame the work. You cannot blame the job. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on, like I've got he's not even 3 yet. So, those who have had kids, this age is like active, all kinds of stuff. Right. And so when I get home, or, well, I work from home, but when I get off of work,
when I clock out,
I'm like, I'm present. Or if he happens to be home, because maybe, my wife is off and she wants to keep him home. If he comes in, if I'm not in a meeting and he knocks on the door, I take a little moment. I go give him a hug. I like show him around the office. Like I take that time. I'm
Yeah.
intentional. And I think that's so important, because if your work uh, shifts your priorities to where the work is above all that stuff,
Mhm.
that's gonna eventually cause major problems. So
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, like I said, I learned the hard way. I put work before family. I put work before God, and I saw the destruction that it had. Luckily, God is good. He redeemed all of it. Not the marriage part, but it wasn't his. Obviously, we can't blame God for that. I know that was our own human nature fault for my last marriage, but He's definitely redeemed and provide so much knowledge for me right now walking into this, to understanding, like you said, the job is there to provide at that moment of time for the needs, to pay for the house and stuff like that, but my wife and my family, which comes first, and even giving her and my kids the understanding of, hey guys, this is why dad's away, this is why we're doing this right here, and this is the direction that we're going. And then also, first and foremost, making sure that if I do set time with them, that time is honored. Because I know a lot of times we do, we saw, like, I don't know if y'all used to watch Liar Liar, old time movie with Jim Carrey, where he would make these promises to his son, and next thing you know, it always would lie and wouldn't be there. But I've made a point now to really make sure, not that I was just deliberately lying, because obviously things do come up, but really establishing those moments with my daughters where I'm like, hey, you know what? I work a job now that's, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So on Saturday, we're going to do this. We're going to put the Christmas tree up. And actually, like you said earlier, Todd, not being tired. Oh, dad's tired. I don't want to put the tree up. No, we're going to sit there. If I can work, 15 hours for a job, and all that does, is put food on the table, I can spend the exact same 15 hours for my family, putting up tree, Christmas lights, all that stuff, and be joyful in doing it. And so, yeah, I like I said, second chance at a family, which it's been great, and it's good no good points from both of you guys on just establishing the boundaries when it comes to work. And so I know I don't have anything else more. I know maybe you guys might have a little couple of things you might even want to talk about. I know
well,
we could
I
go.
could keep going. I could keep
I,
going, but definitely want to respect you guys' time. So I'm actually gonna let David have the last word here before
okay,
we close things out.
I like that.
Man, I listen. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be a guest. I feel like it's just like therapy, man. I think brothers need to get together and share ideas and share best practices. I think iron sharpens iron, and I'm just grateful that you guys allowed me the opportunity to share with your platform. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no worries. It's definitely, the honor is ours. I will
Yeah, for
say.
sure, for sure. And obviously, the beauty of this too is, we don't just have this relationship, through screens, through technology. We definitely, our families hang out, we get together,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next time that I just get to see you in person, both of you guys, and just
You gotta come see
continue to.
the new guy, man. Come see the new
Yeah,
addition.
man. I
Yeah,
I love it. I love it, dude. And
yeah,
Yeah.
man, I'm so happy for you guys. Like,
Thank you,
um,
brother.
every day, we talk about, it's like, man, because right now we have the one kid, and it doesn't look like, at least right now, we can have any more kids. But we always say, hey, God can do whatever. So we
That's
hey,
we
right.
haven't closed
That's
that
right.
door. So,
I,
but
I love.
if we have the
Yeah,
one, then we have the one for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
like Pastor Joe's message today. One of the things that stuck with me was, like he said, with God, nothing's impossible. I was
That's right.
like, so
That's
I
right.
don't know why that really resonated with me. I know it's just, I think sometimes we think, oh, that's not, that can't happen, but like you said, nothing's impossible.
That's
So
right.
guys, I just want
That's
to
right.
thank you guys again. For anyone who's listening to the podcast or whatnot, definitely check us out on our different outlets. reach out, ask questions. We here just wanting to know what everybody wants to talk about. I know a lot of us men are out there, like I said, husband, fathers, and friends, and we just want to partner with you guys. And like David said earlier, iron sharpening iron, just make us ready out there in the world, really prepare us, for war. Some people don't see it as that, but I mean, that's pretty much what we're going out there for. And so I want to thank you again, David. Thank you, Todd. And tune in next time.
Appreciate you guys.